And now we move to the Coastal Burwood Community Board report on the proposed lease to Christchurch School of Gymnastics, 193 Travis Road, part of QE2 Park. And I think Councillor East, you were going to introduce the report on behalf of the Community Board.
Yes, thank you. This is a matter that's been discussed at length by our Community Board. It's a consequence of the School of Gymnastics losing their integrity of their building following the earthquakes, and the considerable cost of remediation of that building led to them evaluating a number of alternatives to relocate. These alternatives that have been assessed were in a variety of locations, both within our ward and within QE2 itself. We have engaged with our community, and admittedly there were some hiccups with that engagement. However, as a consequence of that engagement, we did undertake to further evaluate a number of other sites on the site, which was done, and ultimately it came back to the site that we are considering today as being the realistically only viable position that we could relocate this facility. Our community were offered further ability to address the board at our last meeting, which a number did, and consequently, having heard all of those submissions, the earlier on-site meetings, and the advice that staff have given us on this matter, the board at its last meeting recommended the approval of the granting of the lease to CSG on the site that's shown in the document before you. I think that covers most of the points in this in consideration of this lease application. Councillor Livingston may wish to add a few more points.
Okay, just to follow on from David, basically that there has been good, robust discussion with the local residents immediately adjacent to the QE2 Park. There's been an on-site visit, as I said, robust community engagement and consultation. Views have been freely aired. We've met on-site with board and staff, that is the board of CSG as well as the community board, and I think all the issues have been fairly freely aired and taken on board. So it's been a bit of work to get to this point today, but we're happy that we've got here, and you'll see in the report the issues that we need to deal with today. If we could do this, it would really be another good step along the way for CSG and the community.
I'm just a bit confused about because you want to. I'm a little unsure as to why recommendation 2 from the staff recommendations wasn't included. Authorise the property consultancy manager to conclude and administer the terms and conditions of the lease. Is that an oversight, or should that? It's kind of like the community board only recommended 1, or is it a mistake? I think it's a mistake, because you authorise the property consultancy manager to proceed, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think there's been a bit of debate around the fact that about a line of black poplars, a number of which are scheduled for either removal or some severe maintenance, is part of the issue that we're dealing with. The board was at great pains to stress that the granting of this lease and subsequent design and building consent for the building, that CSG engage with council in a manner such that a building is designed that suits the amenity value of the surrounding area, and that in preparing the foundations for this new building there will be the requirement to remove an amount of soil, and that soil perhaps be used as a bunding along the eastern edge of the building, on which mitigating replantings could be planted as well. So perhaps you're right with the point 2. Maybe it should be noting that the community board have expressed a desire to ensure adequate landscaping as accompanies this project. Looks like there's some alternative wording arriving anyway.
So the advice is that there's enough with existing delegations, but I think it would be helpful if reports actually said that. We're just also noting that the earlier resolution, they resolved when the hearings panel report to the council was considered, that the council allocate the proceeds from the sale of land towards the development and implementation of a master plan for the rest of QE2 Park. But what seems to be holding up the master plan is who has the delegation for that. And so the proposal here is that we request the Coastal Beard Community Board proceed with the development of the QE2 Park master plan in consultation with the community, and then request that the community board works with to make decisions for proceeds. What? No, I'm confused now.
No, I think we probably should read something like request that the community board works with the council to make decisions for the master plan and implementation using proceeds from the land sale to the...
So there's some discussion.
Yeah.
Take it out to the community board.
We're not delegating that yet. We might delegate the implementation, but we want to actually see what it is. You know, like, so we need the master plan, and then we can come back and say in terms of the delegation.
Yeah.
Just take 4 out altogether.
I think we've already in 2 sort of indicated that the sale of land, the proceeds from the sale of land will be used in the development and implementation of the master plan.
Yeah, we've already decided that.
So I think we just need to give the authority to get on with it, and then at a later date talk about how we're going to...
do we want you to report back on the master plan to the council?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So if we put request the Coastal proceed with the development of the QE2 Park master plan in consultation with the community and report back to the council with recommendations on implementation, and then we can delegate that at the time, but it gives us an idea about what we're actually signing up for.
Yep.
Yep.
No, sounds good.
Cool. Good. Yanni.
QE2 is a metropolitan asset, so I do think we need to be just careful on how we approach this.
How?
I don't know that it is a metropolitan asset.
Look at where the people come from to go to the facilities.
It's fee
It
simple
was
land now.
a metropolitan
So it
asset.
definitely is. Like, if you looked at the criteria for our strengthening communities funding, it absolutely meets it. We've been funding groups at a central level that come across a number of areas of the city, and there's very clear criteria. So, but that's fine. Like, I'm happy with the community board developing it, but I do think, for example, our board's had presentation from one of the schools that's going there, so it does have an impact on wider than just the board area, and it would be good just to highlight that. You know, I think it would be good to work with those neighbouring community boards. In 5.27, there's a comment around the proposed lease, around artistic impressions of the building plan together with a landscaping plan, including replacement trees. has that plan been done, or do we need a resolution in here to make sure that that plan goes back before the lease is signed?
Tom?
Yeah, through the chair, the plan hasn't been completed yet. That's going to be developed in consultation with the community and the board.
Right.
The landscape plan, that is, yeah.
Okay, so, and the reason that that wouldn't come back to council?
I believe that the resolution reads for the board to approve it, but if required, can be brought back to council for approval as well.
Right. I mean, I just don't know where we're at with our delegations. It would seem to me that delegations around this site would still rest with council, particularly for a lease that was for 35 years. So I think we do need to be consistent
We're confirming the lease today. That's what we're doing, granting a lease to Christchurch School of Gymnastics.
Yeah, I understand that. But there's a condition in here in the report that talks about the board further agreeing to something as part of that lease. And that's what I'm just curious as to why how that's being done.
Well, I'm very happy for that to remain with the community board, because they're the ones who are working directly with their community on the development of the master plan. So it makes sense that they are responsible for this. So do we need to have a phrase in there about the working with the community board and the Christchurch School of Gymnastics? Is that a... Sorry, what section of the report
it's page
refers to
72.
it? I did read that myself, but where is it in?
Page 72, 5.27 is what...
72?
So like we've been, sometimes we've been through this with other things in the city where we've approved a lease, we've thought that the design would be able to be accommodated, and then it hasn't, and so we've had a lot of public backlash for certain buildings that are on council land that we've given the lease and the design hasn't matched the community expectation. So I just want to be really clear that there is a process by which that can be done, so that people are really aware of what's going to go there before the lease is signed.
Perhaps the last word agreement should be replaced with approval.
Yeah. And that happens before the lease is finalised.
Okay, the board's already made the following decisions. If you go to page 68, part C, they've already made these decisions under delegation, that they authorise the property consultancy manager to conclude and administer the terms and conditions of the lease. So once we grant the lease today, they've already authorised this to continue, and they've said request that the community board has expressed their desire, should the lease be approved, to enter into an agreement to work with CSG regarding the building, landscaping surrounding the building, etc., etc. So it's in accordance with consultation and agreement by the community board as detailed in item 5.23, and request that staff engage with the community board to develop a landscape plan in conjunction with the QE2 Park Master Plan process, noting that approximately... So they've already got this under control, they've already made that decision.
That's fine. The second question was around the car parking. There were a number of submitters that raised concern, and when you look at the number of users of the gymnastics School of Gymnastics, it did seem that we possibly have a huge shortfall of car parking. So how is that issue being addressed?
Sorry, whereabouts is that? Because I read the report in completely the opposite way, that the 55 car parks are in close proximity to the site that's been chosen. So, sorry, have I read the wrong part of the report?
Well, those who opposed the option did so on the grounds of perceived parking issues.
Yes, but there were a tiny number of people who opposed. There was a huge majority that was in favour. So the parking, 55 car parks, were catered for and right next door from the car park. Have I got that wrong?
No, there's also further car parking being developed right at the moment for the recreation and sports centre. So if there is an overflow from time to time for events, the whole site has plenty of capacity.
We've got analysis of that. If we look at the consultation document, I mean, you just think of Pioneer. When you go to Pioneer, think how hard it is to get a car park at times. So I just want to know what else we can do to mitigate. Have we got room for expansion of the car park if we need?
Oh, absolutely. And I think staff, the local community and the community board will take car parking and site access into consideration when considering the master plan.
I think the new parks will exceed the number of current parks. Would that
Yes,
be?
they will, councillor.
However, keep in mind, isn't it, that we, you know, if you looked at Pioneer example, every now and then, yes, it is full, but it's a wonderful thing, although it's probably annoying for the locals.
Yep.
But we can't double the size of the car park because think of the green space that's lost and how it'll look like a wasteland for so long. That's, yeah.
Right, so we have a resolution in front of us, and David, I presume you'd like to move it, and I presume Glenn would like to second it. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank